Hey, welcome back to the Jeremiah Show. Saxophonista Jessy J is here.
Hey, hi Jeremiah.
Hi, good to see you again. We're marching forward. We've set that environment. We are talking, but when the music's playing, we are not talking, Jesse. So just I'm following the rules here.
Okay, good.
Fresh is what we're listening to now. What we came back with. It may be, yeah, I think it's playing a little bit behind us here. So I guess I am talking over the music and I apologize in advance, but it's such a great song, such a great album off the new album, Terra Nova, by Jessy J, 10th album, 17 years in her career, lots of hits. Um, so nice, such an honor to have you on the show. So let me get back to my questions. I have so many questions for you. Take me through your favorite albums. Like if you had to if I you're it was a Jessy J primer, you're like, hey, you know, I want to hear you. I never heard you. You take me to your record collection. And you start pulling out albums of your 10 albums. What three would you choose for me to start out with, and what would they say about you? How have you grown? Here's the real question. And as you choose these albums for me to listen to, can you tell me how you grew from, let's say, Blue to Terra Nova or Tequila Moon to Blue to Terra Nova? Does
Yeah,
that
so
question make sense?
it does. So going back to my top three albums, I think the first one would be Cannonball Adderley and Sergio Mendes play Bossa Novas. That's my top album of all time. And
All
then my
right.
second album would be Blue Train by John Coltrane. It's a classic, it has great harmonies. And then my third album would be maybe Horace Silver, Song for My Father. I thought he was really groundbreaking at his time, combining pop elements with jazz and people could dance to it. I love that
Hmm.
boogie sound. So those are my top three albums. And growing as an artist from Blue, which I think you might remember, I produced and wrote all the songs. So it was
Yes.
a little bit different this time. I didn't want to be the person doing everything by myself. I wanted that heart of collaboration. So that's why I invited Paul Brown on the journey as a producer and co-writer on a lot of the songs. And yeah, I wanted to change things up also with the quality of the sound because it went live into the studio on Blue. Everything was done remotely because it was during COVID. So a lot of the things were recorded here at home and then I sent out to other people and they recorded it from their home and sent it to me and then we would send it to a mixer. So this process, I think in general was a lot better because we were all together in the same room. We were feeding off of each other and their energies. But I do love Blue because it captured something also that essence of like we got to get this music out because there's nothing we can do. We can't go out and play gigs. We can't go and do, sessions live in the studio. We got to just record from home. So I like the urgency also in the Blue album. You can feel it in the music. And then from Tequila Moon, I feel like that album was really recorded over the process of 18 months. So the song Tequila Moon was one of the last songs we recorded. And it was written very quickly, though. It was one of the songs that Paul Brown and I wrote together. He was playing acoustic guitar, I was playing my sax. And the melody is pretty simple, but the complexity comes in the solo section, where you really get a chance to spread out and tell a story. Most of the solo sections in this songs are also open, especially Mr. Magic. And then when you get to the end of the songs like Fresh, there's a lot of soloing over the chords. So we kept the spirit of jazz alive throughout all 10 albums. There's a lot of improvisation, free flowing, and collaboration with other artists.
Thank you. That was amazing that you remembered all of it and
Yes.
did it well. So, Tequila Moon is such a great title, and it's an original. You said that you from with you and Paul.
Yes,
Is there a story behind the title?
there is. Well, it was
Any
going to
that you can
be,
share?
yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, Paul Brown is, you know, we were talking, we wanted to have a Latin name, and tequila came up because it's something that you can do late at night with friends, have a sip of tequila underneath the moon. And that's also another word for that is a velada, where you're in having a late night party with friends. So it made sense to incorporate these things, the culture of the music with the sound of the music. And yeah, it came together.
The saxophone's such a interesting instrument in that a piano and a violin can really touch your heart, right? You kind of feel them in the soul of a note and can almost invoke crying or getting emotional, those two instruments. A sax fits in that category to me um, sometimes where it can be like a guitar or a drum set where it can take you to these different energy levels um, on the high end. And then, but it can also play notes that are like that violin or that piano instrument where, or a cello where you're just like, you can feel it so much. It's such an interesting instrument with such a range where you can take the listener. When you hear a sax, Jesse, even if it's not your own, if you hear a sax play, does that sound transport you anywhere? Does it
Definitely,
affect you emotionally?
it does. It takes me to a different place. I can feel exactly what they're feeling. That's why I love
Yeah.
Cannonball Adderley so much because you just hear his big heart in his music. Then if you listen to Stanley Turrentine, you're feeling the blues, whatever he went through was something tough, and he's telling the story about that. And yeah, you just feel the pain, the happiness. You feel everything in the notes.
Yeah, that's right. You put it so well. Such a beautiful instrument. Performing, I imagine seeing you. I have not seen you live. I can imagine that it's a performance, that you're a really amazing performer, and that experience is different than you would get off of an album. Um, do you have a particular night up on stage in some faraway country? Do you have a memorable night playing your sax to an audience? Do you have a strong memory of a particular night?
There's something special about a club in England called the Pizza Express Jazz Club,
Yeah,
and
I
I
know it.
play there. Oh, you do? Okay. Something
Yeah,
about,
and Anais Reno played there not too long ago. She recorded a live album there. She plays at Birdland all the time with Johnny Valente, our friend.
I love that club because it's so intimate. You can see every face and they're feeding off your energy, and you can just go all the way. Whatever you want to put out there, it gets the story across. So
Mm.
every time I play there, there's always special moments shared with the audience.
So Birdland is a memorable night, is what you're saying. By the
Um,
way, our good friend Cheryl is headed to Birdland tonight.
oh,
She's
wow.
leaving Florida. I've she hardly ever leaves Florida. She's flying to New York City tonight. Cheryl, for the listener, it put Jessy J and I together, connected us so many years ago, and again for this album. But yeah, she's headed there tonight to see. I forget who she said she's seeing. Who's playing there tonight? Oh, Eliane Elias.
Oh, wonderful. I love her music. She's
Yeah, I
amazing.
do too. Yeah, she was just on a few months ago. What's your perfect day look like?
Well, I do love to go to the beach. So my perfect day would be waking up, maybe going for a jog or a bike ride at the beach, then going swimming in the water, laying out, grabbing lunch, and then just like relaxing all day.
And don't forget a little of your music on that record player with your feet up and nobody talking.
Okay.
A good meal. By the way, did you do everything you described when you got your new album? Did you take the time to put your feet up and get a nice glass of wine and listen to the whole album from beginning to end?
I did listen to the whole album, but I was standing up because I thought the speakers would get me at the right angle if I was in the right spot of the room. So I had to
Oh,
just stand there and listen to the whole thing.
thank you for your honesty. I love that. Has there ever been a painting that you've come across that's inspired you musically or artistically? And if so, what's that painting?
Oh, there's so many beautiful paintings out there. And I know one that inspired me recently was a Picasso. And the reason that it inspired me is because it was actually painted over. So the original, you could see underneath was kind of like on top of it was the new one. And it just made you
Wow.
think like how wonderful was the first version before you got to the
Right.
second version. And you think of these artists, he's like a genius, but he doesn't believe in the first time you want to do it the second time. I don't know. I always just think the first one is always the best.
That's a good rule for the music too, right? Like your gut or what you hear the first time is usually the best one. I've heard that with artists that, like trust yourself because that first one is usually the best. It's a good lesson.
Exactly.
So I was thinking about your live, how many, your live show, like we were just talking about a moment ago. How many nights or how many days a year are you out on the road, Jesse? I know you're out a lot.
It varies from time to time because one booking can be like 4 or 5 days. For example, I just got back from the Daytona Jazz Festival and it was a 4 day event. And then when I was in England, it was 3 nights. And so a lot of the shows are multiple nights. So it's hard to say exactly how many nights, but I would say probably around maybe 30 bookings with variable dates.
For a
Some,
year.
yeah, per year.
Yeah, that's a lot. I gotta look at your calendar and try to catch up with you at one of your shows here soon. Hopefully, you're on the West Coast and I can catch you somewhere. So this is kind of a dream with me a little bit here. Um, you may have sort of answered it with your Birdland answer, but I was wondering, I'm always curious as the artist, what you feel, what you think about, let's say, a favorite performer. And if you had a chance to go back in time and be an audience member with your favorite performer, who would that be? Where would that location be? Um, what night would that be? Do you have a show that you wish back in history that you've heard, maybe recorded live, or that you know of that you wish you could transport yourself back to? What would that be?
Oh, there's so many, but off the top of my head, I would say Grover Washington Jr. at the Montreux Jazz Festival in Switzerland.
Oh yeah, I like that. Well, I hope that happens for you. Maybe in your dreams. Okay, here's a good chance to you play with so many great musicians on this album that I know you want to give credit to. Maybe you can answer it within these two, the sandwich of these two questions together. Um, what is an East Coast vibe in terms of music and musicians, and how is it different from a West Coast or LA vibe? I'm so curious.
I always aligned West Coast vibe with Miles Davis kind of blue. Chet Baker, the West Coast swing. It's a little more laid back, a little more easygoing, a little more tropical because the weather is warm here. East Coast vibe is a little bit more aggressive, more like David Sanborn ish. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Just a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
bite to it. So that's why I kind of, when I separated the album into East Coast, West Coast bands, that's the vibe that I got from the East Coast sessions.
Okay. And some of the musicians that you play with, I know you had musicians from the East Coast and the West Coast. Do you want to point out any special, or are there just
Sure.
too many? And
There's a lot of people that recorded on this album, and I'll just go through it track by track. So, Terranova, we had Jeffrey Leroy Smith, played a lot of instruments. And then we had Beso de Sol was arranged by Buddy Jordan, amazing musician. Mr. Magic. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Magic was Buddy Jordan. Beso de Sol was Jeffrey Leroy Smith again. And then My Everything, Shane Terrio, guitarist. And then Brian Bromberg played on a lot of these instruments on the bass guitar. And he plays it almost like a guitar because he plays in the upper register of the bass. So sometimes he'll trick you and think it's a guitar, but it's really the bass guitar. And then, of course, Paul Brown played on Fresh. We co wrote that song together. On the live sessions, we had David Garfield on piano, Jay Rowe played strings, and then Gordon Campbell on the drums. Richie Gajate Garcia on the percussion. And I played flute on some of these songs as well as sax, and I sang. And I think that's about it. We had, Tiago Pinheiro from Brazil on Right on Time playing keyboards and the electric bass. And then also Yaji Hampton from North Carolina on the drums. And there was a lot of musicians that contributed to this album to make it special. And I just thank them all so much, including the mixer, Rainier, and then Paul Brown. And yeah, if I forgot anyone, please forgive me.
That's I know that's hard to do, and I'm sorry to have asked you to do that, but there are so many incredible musicians that you've worked with, and that have probably would say the same thing about working with you. That just what an honor for both ways. Final question here before our last break, and we're going to play your new single right after the break. You said that you wanted to, when going back, kind of coming full circle, going back to your Latin jazz roots, that you wanted to create an album with no boundaries. And I think that means in terms of your music, but what does it mean to you having no boundaries?
No boundaries means that if I like something, I'm going to play it. So, for example, Mr. Magic, even though it's a cover, even though probably a million people have recorded it, I recorded it anyways because I love that song. So I wasn't trying to do anything like I didn't have any rules. Like you can't record covers, you can't record songs that have been recorded a lot. I just went for it. And then the other songs, like if it, as long as it caught something to me, like my attention, then I wanted to record it. So that was the other no boundary.
No boundaries. World is yours. The music is yours, and it's on the album. You can have it yourself. You can have a piece of that. This new album, TERRANOVA, Jessy J, jazz, excuse me, saxophonist. Um, we will be right back. We're going to take you to break right now with Piel Canela. Anything you'd like to say more further on this, Jesse?
Oh, this is one of my favorite songs from the album. It's from Fer Los Panchos and Edie Gourmet. It's a beautiful 1950s classic.
Enjoy, and we'll be right back.